Hello people, how's it going? For today's video, I'm gonna be showing you how to make these water rings. Now, as you know, these water rings are basically the condensation of the water on top of the glass, and then that just like drips down, and then it stays on the surface. For today, I'm using this clear plastic here, and as you can see, we can either do a sharp water ring like this, or something more similar to this one. And for today's video, I'm going to be mainly using Photoshop and, well, of course, Keyshot. Now, if you look at water rings on the internet, you know that they are not perfect. So it does not matter if you follow the first step, because I'm going to start with my Solidworks file, and then I'm going to take it into Illustrator, and then from Illustrator to Photoshop. You don't have to follow step by step from Solidworks to Illustrator. You can just draw a circle in Photoshop. But since my glass here is kind of square shaped, I wanted it to be like accurate or as close as possible. So I'm going to be starting with SolidWorks. So when I go to SolidWorks, I go to a new sketch, and I actually offset the bottom shape of my glass here, and then I also offset that sketch, I believe 0.125, yes. And that's it for SolidWorks. Basically, the next thing, I'm just gonna hide my solid body, which I have a liquid and a cup, and I have this sketch here, and then I'm gonna save it as I believe it's DWG. Yes, it's DXF. I'm gonna save it as DXF, and I'm just gonna save it on my desktop. Save. It's going to ask us what we want. We want the current view, so we're just going to click check, and this is exactly what we want, and we're going to save it. Okay, perfect. Close this. Do not save, I guess. And I'm going to be going to my desktop, and I'm going to open this with Adobe Illustrator. And it's going to ask us what size do we want. Well, I want the original size, so we're just going to click OK. Yeah, sure. Whatever, and this is what we have right now at the moment. We don't need this, obviously, so I'm going to delete that, and I'm just gonna group everything together. As I said, you don't have to do these steps. It's just for me to make it look, I believe, more professional. And I'm gonna change the artboard to let's do 4x4. All right. So this should be ready in Illustrator. Now we want to save it as either a JPEG or a PNG. So we go to export as, and we save it as bring a glass PNG. Yeah, that's fine. We're just gonna save it on desktop. And yes, 300 is fine. Okay, now that we have it, we're just gonna minimize this, and we have our drinking glass, and we're gonna open it in Photoshop. Okie dokie. So we have this in Photoshop. I'm gonna make a background layer, and I'm also gonna make this a little larger. It doesn't matter how large it can be, so you can just skip the first SolidWorks and Illustrator steps to here. If you don't want to follow those steps, it's fine. And I'm going to do a white background for now, but I'm going to change the color later. And right now, as you can see, we have this cool shape. We're going to go to the magic wand, and we want to select the inside of this ring-shaped thing. So we're just going to click once. Make sure that your contiguous, I think, is actually checked. So it only selects this part here. And what we want to do, we're going to do a new layer, and we want to go to select. We're going to go to modify, and we want to do feather. So I believe for my picture, 20 pixels for the feather is fine, so we're just gonna click OK. And if we fill it with like black color, which I'm gonna do right now, you can see that the borders are very blurry. So that's what you want. You want it to be. You want the first layer to be kind of blurry. So for the second layer, we're gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna go to select, and I want to contract from it. So I believe 10 pixels is fine. We want to have a thin black line in the middle, so we're just going to click OK. I think it's good, and we're going to do it on a new layer, and we're going to paint it in black. And that's that. We're gonna hide our first Illustrator layer, and this is what we have right now at the moment. And we're gonna do a third layer for just some random looking drops. That's white. I did not want that. I want it black. Something like that. It does not matter. It just has to look random. And we're just gonna like go like this. We're just gonna go like that, and maybe like it's thicker here, maybe, I don't know. And it's really thick there. And I think this should be fine. And next thing we want to do, we want to go to our layer 4, or this the second one that we did. We want to go to our eraser and be sure that your hardness is at 0%. And we want to just erase some of it, as I said, to just like make it look a little random. And this should be good. Let me just erase some of that too. I think that was too much. And I believe this is fine. All right, so the next thing we want to do, we want to add a blur filter to the last two layers. So we click on our layer, we go to filter, we go to blur and Gaussian blur. I have no idea how to pronounce this word. So 3 is fine, we can change it later. We're gonna see how it reacts in Keyshot. So we're just gonna change it later if we have to. 3 is fine, and we're gonna do the same thing, maybe less than 3 for the third layer. And we're gonna do like perhaps 2, I believe. 2 is fine, I think. And as you can see, we have like some random shape here, which is exactly what we want, right? And the next thing we want to do, we want to turn these black shapes into white, actually. So we're just gonna press Ctrl U to just change the saturation, and we're gonna do we're gonna increase the lightness to 100. So we have it at 0, and we're gonna just do the same thing for the other 2 layers. Okay, that's good. And I'm gonna just change my background to see what's going on to black. So that's nice. So we're just gonna hide our background, our black background, and we're gonna save this as a PNG, right? So we go to Save As, and we go to PNG, and I'm gonna do Drinking Glass Glory. Yeah, that's good. And I'm gonna save it on my desktop. Okay, so here I have my scene in Keyshot, and as you can see, I'm using a clear plastic material for this coaster here. I'm gonna be hiding the cup too, just to make it load faster, drinking glass, and I'm gonna be hiding that. And this is a coaster that I actually designed, and hopefully I'll be selling them on Etsy or somewhere. I'm gonna leave a link in the description if I ended up selling them. So as you can see, this is a clear plastic, and I haven't removed the sticker here, but this is how clear it is, as you can see. And I'd say it's pretty close to what we have in Keyshot. So what we want to do, there are multiple ways to make that water ring that I told you. I believe what I'm about to show you is, oh, that's the best way to do it. It was mostly done in Photoshop. Obviously, that's like the most important part. But here, it's also important here on Keyshot. So you go to Material Graph, and it's just a simple cloudy plastic. And I'm going to be dragging and dropping my drinking glass blurry thing. And as you can see, I'm going to change the camera here, so we can have more control over our scene. And if you press C, you see the black and white version of it, and we want to turn off the repeat vertical, repeat horizontal, unless you want it to repeat, of course, but we don't want them to repeat. And I'm going to turn off the two-sided one, and we're going to just make it look a little random. Maybe just like rotate it a little bit, just like bring it here, so something like that. You can use this as a bump map, but it's not recommended. I'd rather use a geometry node, a displace node. That I showed you how to use a displace node before. So we go to geometry and we go to displace. It's one of my favorite things to do in Keyshot. and we're just going to connect it to this place, and we're just going to connect this to geometry. I'm going to double click on it because I know this is way too large, 4 inches. No, that's way too much. So we're going to do 0.0, I believe I did 2. So we're just going to do 0.02, and we're going to decrease the triangle size to make it look better, sharper, cleaner. So we do 001. You can do 0001 if you want them to look cleaner. And match triangles, it's fine. And we're going to execute geometry node. And we shall wait for it. Okay, as you can see, we have something here. It's showing. And that's actually what we need. If when you finish rendering your image, it will look a lot better. Right now, I'm at 26 or less than 30 samples. It's looking like that, so I think it looks good when you render it at like 256 or 512 or something. What you can play with the displacement height, let's say 0.03 maybe. And we're just gonna do the geometry node again. I think 0.3 is too much, it's too bulky. Yeah, I believe it's too bulky. We can do 0.25. So I'm getting off track here. But as you can see, you have control over what your ring can look like. So if you want it to look sharper, you don't have to blur it as much as I did here. If you want it to look less sharper, well, you just blur it more. If you want your ring, to have more randomness, you just add more white spots. And that's basically it, guys. Let me know if you try these tutorials or if you follow them step by step. I actually want to see some results. Just let me know down in the comments if you have any questions, and I guess I will see you guys next week. Have a good day.